president of the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Board of Directors. I'm excited to have you all here for our first of two Greening Your Business sessions. The Township of Selwyn and the Kawartha Chamber have partnered together to offer these to you virtually. We hope that we can offer you some sustainable solutions and cost-saving methods that you can start implementing in this new year. So this webinar will be recorded, and we will send the link out to you after the session so you can review it or share it as you wish. If you're not comfortable with being recorded, you can hit that button that kind of makes you just an invisible icon. That's fine. If you can all just make sure that you're muted, that would be great. You can also, so sorry, just one thing, I don't have the slides up yet. You can put those up.
Hillary, you're gonna share your screen?
Yeah, that'd be great, thanks. So I'll just cover off some housekeeping. I'm sure everyone in this new world that we're in is pretty used to these comments, but just to cover them off so we all know for sure. So questions or comments can be submitted into the chat bar, which can be, we'll address all of those questions at some point at the end of the presentations. If you need to change your view, you can do that at the top right-hand corner of your screen. You want to change the speaker view.
And that's great.
Okay. Okay. I'll just keep moving along here then. So we would like to acknowledge that although we may not be all tuning in from the same location, we are, the greater Peterborough area is in the Mississauga-Nishnabeg territory in the context of the Rice Lake Treaty 20 and Williams Treaties. We would like to encourage the participants and ourselves to reflect on our relationships to this land, where we call home and have our businesses. We're in a time when sustainability and planning for future generations is ever more important, and there are ways in which we can apply principles of environmental stewardship to building strength and capacity of the local business community. So I would just like to introduce you to those who were responsible for bringing the session to us. So first we have Hillary Bradshaw, and she is the environmental programs intern for the Selwyn Township. She is, hopefully I get this right, Masters of Science candidate studying plastic pollution. She will be taking the lead on this webinar for waste management, diversion, and future planning. Next is Anne, and did you raise your hand there, Hillary? I'm not sure if I see you. There she is. Anna Courier is the Climate Change Coordinator for Selwyn Township and a recent graduate from the Masters of Sustainability Studies at Trent University. Anna will be taking the lead on session 2, Transportation and Energy Conservation and Future Planning, and that is scheduled for the 19th. So they're both from the Selwyn Township. Next, we have Tracy Beverly, who is the member relations coordinator for the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism. Tracy has helped facilitate this webinar series and will be monitoring the chat room. So if you have any questions or issues, you can always send her a message.
I just want to make sure that everyone can hear, because there's still someone that's saying they can't hear. So Barb Russ, you're saying that you can't hear anything? Okay. Does anyone else have any problems with hearing or volume? Doesn't look like anyone else has any problems. Stacy Sullivan said she can hear, so that's good. Barb, do you have your, hold on. Let me just see. If anyone else has any issues with hearing, you can let me know, but it looks like we're good. It might be just one person, so we can deal with that separately. So
Tracy, was there a call-in number for this as well that she could use if she's having trouble with her audio?
yes.
I think it was in the email.
Yeah, okay, I'll find that.
Okay. Okay, excellent. So we'll just move on to the next slide here. Oh, which is Hillary, so I'll just pass it on to Hillary. Thanks.
Thanks, Tracy Logan. Hi, everyone. I'm Hillary. Thanks for joining us on a Wednesday dreary afternoon. Just wanting to do a quick outline for this session for today. So the first half, we're going to focus on waste management and diversion, looking at some key things that your business might be interested in learning. And then we'll be introducing our business presenter number 1, which is from Beechwood Resort. Second half, we'll be focusing on the future planning. So the things that we're starting to see in the news and everything like that, just so that everyone's a little bit more aware of those kind of new challenges and regulations. And then obviously talking about the good COVID-19 challenges and opportunities that we're all facing today. Then we'll be presenting the second presenter from Summer Roads Flower Company. And then we'll just do a quick exit, a thank you, and then we'll do some questions at the end. Any questions that you have, please just put them into the chat again, and we'll get to them at the end. If we do not, if we're not able to get through them all in this session, we'll answer all of those questions and then do a mass email with this recording, and then also those questions answered that if we don't have enough time. So we're going to start with some food waste. So the best thing is why are we really doing this? So we're doing this because waste is a symptom of an inefficient process. Reducing our waste is going to increase efficiency and profits, which is inevitably what everyone wants to see. And then this is just a good time to start thinking about what your business actually uses, produces, and sells. So just a moment of time to reflect, especially now we're all working, most of us are working from home. So it's just a time to maybe sit down and reflect on exactly what your business uses and produces. And then just starting to think, you know, what can we do to reduce our waste? So we've just obviously we're highlighting some information and key elements that we think that could be some helpful tips and tricks for making easy transitions for sustainable choices. So we're starting with food waste. So essentially, everyone knows this from home, but for your businesses, just storing your fruits and vegetables properly is going to be helpful for learning how to make everything last longer. Again, so staying with what you have at the end of the day, getting creative with leftovers. If you're a business that is a restaurant or anything like that with food, so starting to think about ways to use leftovers. So instead of taking it and putting it into the garbage. Definitely knowing the difference between expiry dates and best before dates. So it's interesting, best before dates are not an indicator of food safety. Neither before or after the date really gives you that kind of information. All it does is just kind of nutritional and flavor. Whereas an expiration date is actually going to be required on only very certain number of foods. And they're not as, it's like when you're needing to, it's a lot of like baby food and things like that. That's something that has a lot of regulations too. So just knowing those differences, starting to just reducing your food waste by encouraging the use of on-site or community gardens. We see that in Lakefield Community Garden and at the Lakefield District Public School. So they have a community garden. It allows everyone to have participation in the gardening, and then also some fresh food. And then at the end of the day, does your business have any food left over? Can you donate it? Any unsold food to maybe the shelters, or offer discounts for end of day? Just to make sure you're limiting the amount of food waste at the end of your day. Another option, so after all that, now we have wasted food, and that's inevitable. So what we can do with it? So backyard composting is great. It does allow any greens or brown kind of organics. This does make compost in the end. So you're gonna have to end up dealing with either offering people to take it home with them for their gardens, or if you have a community garden, take it there. And their approximate price is about $30. And you can get that at the county of Peterborough or through Selwyn Township. Just call ahead just to make sure we have availability and when to pick it up. So then we also have backyard digesters. These are kind of an upgrade to your backyard composting. This is a little different. It does require some installation. So you're going to be digging about 3 feet down into the ground. Essentially, you're making a outhouse for your food. So there's this black cone that you can see, and it only sits a few inches down into the ground. And then the cone is an anaerobic process. So it's going to encourage your sunlight. It's going to absorb that sunlight and encourage digestion through the microorganisms in the ground. So you put it in the ground and you can dump everything in it. Meats, bones, dairies, greens, absolutely everything. The downside of this, it does not create compost. So if you're trying to make some compost for your gardens or anything like that, it's not going to do that for you. And they start around about $55. Again, County of Peterborough or Selwyn Township. Another option is if you don't have the space or anything like that at your business, there are options for you to go have someone pick it up for you for compost material. So 1.5 Degrees Composting Solutions is a local area in the local area, and they come and pick up your organic waste. There are fees applied for that, of course. Another option is vermicomposting. So it's getting to have worms eat your food. So they're a great alternative. You can see vermicomposting at the Lakefield District Public School. They have them in the classrooms, and also Peterborough Greenup has one there as well. So getting our worms to eat our food waste is great. Kathy's Crawlers Composters is a business that does supply any materials you would need and the worms. So recommend if you want to get into that, you can either contact us through email, or Kathy's Crawlers Composting has a lot of good, helpful, she's got a good website. Everything is going to be listed at the resources on the end of this, the very end of this webinar series. So then what we find is very important is just proper signage for food waste, exactly where it's going to go, make sure people are diverting what they can into in the right spots, so that you're not getting cross contamination with wrong materials. So next we're going to look into water and other drinks. So does your business provide beverages, and how does that occur? So trying to avoid just plastic bottles and opt for sort of a refillable station. This is obviously a lot more cost upfront, and then it's eventually going to pay off in the end. So you can always do coolers and things like that, bottle refilling stations, which you see sometimes in like arenas or schools. And then the freestyle machines with a free water option. So the ones that you often see with like sodas and stuff like that at restaurants, like fast food restaurants. Just all options that hopefully to try to reduce just getting everything in plastic bottles. And then just trying to have reusable or easy to recycle materials. If you do provide drinks, so offer it in glass, tin, stainless steel for your drinks, for drinkware. Again, providing signage for refillable stations. A handy little online map from bluew.org helps people in the area find somewhere they can do a free water refill. And there's definitely a lot of Lakefield businesses already on the map, so that's great. Oftentimes they send a little sticker so they can put it on their business so that people know that's where they can get some free water. Next, we'll move into kitchen and break rooms. So just offering your staff somewhere to eat, which would encourage people to bring their own food, drinks, things like that. So as you see in this photo, just obviously offering the amenities such as, you know, your microwave, your coffee maker, a sink, refrigerator. This just promotes everyone to bring their own food. And then it's just promoting people not to go and buy takeout on their lunch breaks. If they got somewhere to go and to sit in a comfortable spot and warm up their food, they will do it. And yeah, so then all of those things, you know, upfront costs can be pricey, but always supporting your new to use stores often have these kind of kitchen appliances. So you can find those locally at the Causeway Treasure Trove, the Renewed Classics, or the Ennismore Community Thrift Shop. Another way to start looking at your waste patterns is through a lunch audit. So conducting your own audit, there is links at the end again on how to do this. So as simple as it is, you just go through your garbage and get to count all of those lovely items that you find. It's just to help to identify any patterns if people are recycling properly or their coffee cups, anything odd that's in the garbage that could be actually diverted into recyclables. So, and then from there, just making sure after you get all that kind of information from your audits is going to help you give you some recommendations on what you need to have in those areas to provide containers for landfill, your containers of recyclables, and then fibers, just so that everyone knows exactly where they can put their items. So now we'll move into containers and packaging. So again, just trying to avoid single-use packaging and single-use plastics in general. They're such a cheap alternative and they are a great resource, but they're super harmful for the environment. And we'll talk about that a little bit later for why some of these things are going to be banned. But in general, just trying to avoid starting to think away from plastic is probably best sustainable options you can do. So by doing that, you're going to try to opt for containers that are made from recyclable material. Post-consumer content is what often the disclaimer will say it's post-consumer. So trying to find things that have already been something else that's really supporting the circular economy and things like that. So, and then just trying to use easy to recycle materials. So checking your local municipal waste management for acceptable materials is where you should start. Can your, whatever your business uses or sells, can it actually be recycled, or does it need to be sent somewhere else? So just start to think about exactly what you've got for your business. Can you opt for recyclable packaging materials or return packaging programs? So you would be looking at discussing with your crate and pallet management system. So see if your vendors actually can take some of your packaging back. It eliminates packaging waste a lot. It makes less things have to be made new, and it just keeps everything again in a circular economy. So encouraging recycling staying within Ontario. Promoting reusable items such as mugs, bags, Tupperware, dishware, cutlery. Obviously with COVID-19, this has been a little bit of a challenge because everything's gone kind of the opposite. You can still use those things in some locations. Oftentimes they'll ask you just not to put the bags or anything like that onto surfaces so that it just remains all clean for the staff. Again, just having extra hands, extra hands on deck, extra hands for like dishware, cutlery, things like that for your employees and customers. So just allowing, if someone's forgotten their coffee mug at home in their staff room, they can make their own coffee because your staff room has some extras on hand. So then it's a time to reflect on your business and think of fun, creative ways to go about sustainable practices. So can start maybe considering piloting a deposit fee for containers. You see it in the, I'm sure you've seen it in the news that like the big box chains, such as Tim Hortons and Burger King are starting to pilot these ideas with a deposit fee with their, for their containers. So we'll continue on with containers and packaging. So again, just made a big thing is beware of greenwashing. So they are those catchy phrases, words such as organic, green, eco-friendly. It's not enough. They need to be a lot more in depth with what they're saying and explain what they're, what that statement or word is actually claiming it's being. And it's not all that easy. I mean, our webinar is called Greening Your Business. So it's a very easy fallback, but it's hard. But you just have to just have those kind of descriptors behind that catchy phrase. So then what can we use? So we're trying to not use plastic. So try to opt for compostable and recyclable materials over those biodegradable or bioplastics. The reason you want that is biodegradable or bioplastics are not actually claiming those. They do break down, everything breaks down, but it doesn't break down entirely. And so biodegradable and bioplastics are actually somewhat, it's like kind of a 50-50 content of a natural base and then the petroleum background from plastic. So it's not entirely compostable. So you move into your compostable packaging and just your recycling is just maybe a better option for sustainability in the business. So make sure when you're choosing what kind of packaging you want, what the disclaimers are. So for example, there's an image here that says this is not a plastic bag. In that little spot, it says home compostable. So this is showing you that it is compatible for home composting. So if someone's got some composting like in their backyard, it's perfect. They can take it there. I don't think we're accepting those things yet in the facilities, like at the Selwyn landfill. Another option is you'll see in this other icon, other image is compostable, but industrial, only in industrial facilities. So you definitely want to make sure with your municipal government what you can actually use. So for the moment, we don't have a composting industrial facility in Peterborough yet. It is in the works. So try to, start to look for more of your home compostable materials for the time being, because anything that says industrial, unfortunately, our area is just not set up for it yet. So again, this is just helping you decide whether or not this is a sustainable product, and it's looking at the suitable end life option for this correct disposal of that product. So are you giving those products in packaging that the customer can take home and properly dispose of? So now we'll move into waste diversion. So again, this brings back to just checking your local municipal sorting guides for exactly what you're going to be recycling. So know what your blue box accepts and what it does not accept. Everyone really wants recycling to accept a lot. Unfortunately, again, it's just a facility and processing issue at the moment for getting all of those materials that we all want to be recyclable. We just can't at the moment. So just check your local sorting guides for anything like that. Again, we have lots of diversion depots, so such as the Smith landfill in Selwyn. We have an electronics diversion program, batteries, construction and debris, and metal, yard and brush, tires, and Freon appliances are all these diversion programs that you can offer that the Selwyn landfill offers. So if you've got these kind of materials and you're trying to figure out what you can do with them, definitely take them somewhere that they can be properly disposed of and sorted. Battery recycling, just your common household batteries. There are local depots and drop-off locations. So the Chamber of the Kawartha Chamber office and the Township of Selwyn office also both offer drop-off locations. So if you got some, I'm sure everyone's got a jar somewhere that has some batteries and you don't know what to do with them, you can take them and drop them off there. So then we also have electronic waste. Your business must have electronics, especially during this time of COVID, everything's electronic. So if you have anything old and you wanted to upgrade, you can always donate unusable but working computers, printers, things like that. But if it's not in working condition, there are local drop-off locations again. The Selwyn Township landfill has one. Textile waste. And the reason, going back to electronic waste. So the reason we want electronics separate is it's actually hazardous material. So it can leak toxic elements from those materials, such as mercury and lead, which is not great for the environment. It can get into our drinking water and cause issues to human health. So just definitely donating your electronics or reusing accessing a recycling center to safely manage those electronic waste is essential. Textile waste. So does your business have staff uniforms, or do you actually sell textiles? The clothing industry is one of the world's largest polluters. So fast fashion is here and now. However, we're dealing with the amount of textile waste and realizing it is out of control. So just start to think, if you do have a business that sells textile, like clothing, can you donate anything that you would want to get rid of so you can bring in new inventory? Unfortunately, there's some problems in some areas. I was studying out east, and I actually knew Mark's Warehouse out there would actually cut work boots and t-shirts so that no dumpster divers were going around pilfering their unwanted stuff. So try to just look for ways you can donate it or recycle your textiles. Just garbaging them or ruining them on purpose is just not sustainable for keeping our landfills at premium. So then just looking for these diversion programs. Your municipal government offers many of these programs. If they have something that they don't offer, you can always reach out to council and your township. There's also private sectors that can also offer some different diversion programs. So that would be TerraCycle, for example. TerraCycle is a really well-known private sector that does diversion programs. So a lot of those Gillette razors, they have boxes that you can get, and then you just ship it off to them. So if you have any, if you're interested in those things, again, it's at the end of this presentation and the resources, just some web links. So then just making sure you try to do sustainable choices. Can your business buy local products and ingredients? Not so easy sometimes, but definitely it reduces your carbon footprint if you can buy your things locally, and you're supporting one another, businesses, your neighbors, your friends. So definitely try to stay local. Looking at your paper materials, try to opt for recyclable paper or paper free. A lot of people print a lot? Can your printer do double-sided, or providing online versions? The biggest thing is, don't by default provide napkins, cutlery, straws, or condiment packages. So we all have those stashes somewhere in our kitchen that has full of these extra things that by default everyone provides, but no one needs them. So don't default to it. Try to offer if people would like it. So you can again, everything's a transition. So if your business does it automatically, maybe start to let your customers know you're not defaulting to it anymore, and that if they'd like to, they just have to ask for those extra materials. Again, just supporting local. There's a lot of borrow and rental programs. Everyone have the means to get everything they need to do some projects. So if you have a quick handy job that you need to do, but you don't own your business doesn't own a drill or anything like that, there are borrow rental programs through libraries and things like that to provide you some rental options rather than buying new. Again, just trying to use a circular economy rather than buying new, because then what are you going to do with it after? Sure, you might use it a bit, but if you're like me, I definitely have some stuff that I bought to do like 3 projects with, and then I don't use them anymore. So I always try to offer my friends to make sure that they know I have those things. Again, we spoke about this earlier, so encouraging the use of on-site or community gardens. This is such a great collaborative thing to do with your business or with the community. It gets everyone's hands dirty, and such a great endorphin rush in doing that. And then you're providing fresh and local food for your businesses and for your community. Obviously, if you want to start that up, COVID-19 has definitely deferred some of those working together events. So again, everything takes time and planning. So it's a great time to reflect on your business and what you want to do going forward. And then again, just looking for proof of certifications. So these green practices, you see at the end of the slide, there's some of these logos that I'm sure everyone has seen somewhere, and you're just looking for those proof. Again, you can definitely be greenwashed by some of this stuff, so making sure you can either look it up with this logo and make sure it is in fact green, and anything that has a logo, they should say there should be something else along with that logo saying exactly what they're doing, why they get that certification. So I'm going to pass it back to Tracy Logan at the moment, and she's going to introduce the next slide.
Great, thanks, Hillary. That's some excellent information that, no matter what kind of business we have, we can really start to implement some of those things. I'll just share a quick issue that we had. We're a service, we own a tree service. So our guys drink so much water every day, and our garbage cans were overflowing with plastic containers. And so basically we implemented a pack at home rule. And pretty quickly, everyone was coming to work with reusable containers. We also encouraged them to bring just water jugs with them, reusable preferably. And then we actually supplied them with like Gatorade powder. So it really encouraged them to, instead of getting the single Gatorade container, to actually, do it more in a bulk type style. So that's really helped us. And because I usually have to bring the garbage to the landfill, it's really helped me too. So that's great. But so anyways, just moving forward. So we're going to now have our first business presenter. And we're lucky enough to have Krista from Beechwood Resort, and she's with us. But first, we're going to actually play a video of her. So, and then there'll be some time for questions a little bit later on. So, but I will just introduce Krista. So Krista is from Beechwood Resort. She's the general manager there. And so Beechwood is located just south of Buckhorn on the shores of Lower Buckhorn Lake. It's a full service lakeside resort, including cottages, condos, main lodge, and restaurant, which operates in the summer season, which I think she explains. Anyway, so we'll just head right on into that video. Enjoy.
Hello, my name is Krista Morgan. I'm from Beechwood Resort. We are a family-run resort, including a restaurant, conference and banquet facilities, and lakeside lodgings on the shores of Lower Buckhorn Lake. We accommodate up to 120 guests and operate year-round. Our restaurant does go into hibernation in the winter months. I personally always keep the environment and sustainability in the conversation when planning anything at the resort. I feel you have to have this type of advocate on the team to research and encourage the use of sustainable products to help reduce our ecological footprint. Over the years, we have implemented many of these products, such as LED lighting throughout the resort, converting our pool to salt water, elimination of oil furnaces and tanks, adding new software that improves time management, less paper, less waste. These changes have not happened overnight. It has taken years. Sustainability practices do have a return on your investment, although with some you will have to wait for the payoff. Some team members may look more at the ROI instead of the sustainability. I believe it is a balance of the both. These are some of the things we are doing. We compost everything from the commercial kitchen that we can. We encourage our self-catering guests to do the same by giving them the tools, a recycled pail with lid, and encourage them to make the effort, kind of do as we do. We are fortunate to have the space to compost in our woods. First, the local wildlife gets fed, and then after some time, the material returns to our many gardens around the resort. Together with our Peterborough County recycling program, we divert a small hill of material from our landfill. This helps the environment and also our bottom line as we pay per load for garbage pickup. At all our outdoor dining events, we use reusable plates, cutlery, and drinkware. I'm delighted that Canada is on the move to eliminate single-use plastics. We have not used these items for years. No straws, plastic cutlery, no paper plates, and we get along just fine. It has been 3 years since we stopped offering disposable takeout coffee cups. We offer bring your own and we fill, take a mug from the dining room and we collect later, or purchase a reusable one from our gift shop with a free coffee inside. This year we are featuring the e-coffee cup. It's a reusable, dishwasher-proof cup made from bamboo. McLaglin's business, based in Amsterdam, focuses on creating beautiful, reusable products that the company hopes will have a real impact on the Mount Everest of single-use packaging through normalizing the use of permanent coffee cups rather than simply recycling disposable ones. Small changes can have a big impact. I agree with David McLaglin, founder of eCoffee Cup. He says most single-use items gets used for a few minutes and then get discarded. I think it's possibly the most ridiculous misuse of resources that humans have ever come up with, defying economic logic on so many levels. David is not satisfied with creating a recyclable product. Instead, he's intent on changing the consumer's mindset around recycling and single-use items. I'm proud to be offering this product in our gift shop with our logo on it. As McLaglin says, the problem is so large, so ubiquitous within modern society that making a true lasting impact will take decades to achieve. There is no quick fix to this massive
Can people hear this?
and no silver bullet. We are only getting started. I feel every little bit anyone can do, every drop in the bucket will make a difference. So don't stop trying. Let's take care of our world.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. All right, thank you, Krista. So what we'll do now is just move into our next, the second half of our future planning portion, and that is with Anna from the township. So I'll just pass it over to Anna.
Thanks, Hillary. Do you mind just putting that slide up for me?
Of course, I'm just having technical issues at the moment.
Okay. What would a webinar be without technical difficulties? Okay, everyone can hear me okay? All right, yeah, thanks so much for Krista for contributing that video, and Hillary and Tracy Logan for your presentations. Great, so we figured that a part of this webinar we could include a brief overview of two proposed government regulations that have been in the news over the last year. We've received a few questions about them and thought it just might be helpful to get a general understanding of what's on deck, especially because they do pertain to the subject matter. So the first one being the proposed federal single-use plastics ban. And I'll just take this opportunity quickly to answer a question that was mentioned in the chat. So single-use plastics essentially are goods that are made primarily from fossil fuel-based chemicals, so petrochemicals. And Hillary, you might know more about this, but as a plastics researcher, but they're meant to be disposed of right after use. So those wrappers, straws, bags, bottles, and they're very difficult or impossible to recycle. And because plastic never goes away, it's an especially inefficient course of action to use a product just once. So many of you may know that the federal government is planning for a zero plastic waste economy by 2030. The federal, provincial, and territorial governments have agreed to the Canada-wide strategy on zero plastic waste that lays out a vision for a circular economy for plastics. Single-use plastics, like textiles, is a major polluter of our waterways and the hardest items to actually recycle. So a part of this plan by the federal government is discussing banning a select number of single-use plastics. Now the plan was released in October 2020 and it listed the specific items that can be managed through a ban. And I'll talk about those in just a minute. The government has announced that the regulations will be finalized by the end of 2021. And the plan may evolve as comments that are received up to the consultation deadline of December 9th are considered. So nothing is certain as of yet, but ban or not, we feel that it's beneficial from a sustainability perspective and also a cost saving point of view that businesses start to consider options, alternatives to single-use plastics. Some of those points have been mentioned earlier. Also, do keep in mind that Restaurants Canada, some of you in the food industry might be familiar with, is a not-for-profit organization that represents Canada's food service industry, and they're pushing for policies that avoid any undue burden to businesses continuing to rely on single-use items to safeguard the health and safety of their staff and customers, so straws for people with mobility challenges or COVID-19 sanitation concerns. But big players like Loblaws are transitioning, and so hopefully your alternatives to single-use plastics are readily available for you. Great, next slide, please. So some of you may have seen this list in the news, the single-use items. Again, some of these have been touched on, but we have 6. So the first, plastic bags. Some alternatives to plastic bags are paper bags. We see a lot of those in grocery stores already. Foodland in Lakefield was one of the first ones to start doing that recently. The Bring Your Own Bag program that a few downtown businesses in Lakefield have championed. So it's a reusable bag and borrow program, or offering boxes for shipments. And we also have stir sticks, so phasing out plastics, single-use stir sticks for wooden stir sticks, or providing clean and dirty spoon stations. The Nutty Bean has those clean and dirty spoon stations for their coffee. 6-pack rings, we've heard about that they can impact waterfowl and other animals, other aquatic animals. So instead of this, you can use boxes, or there are compostable options for 6-pack rings available. As well, plastic utensils. So as Hilary mentioned, try not to default, give people the option, or provide clean, dirty cutlery stations if you're a sit-in place, or encourage people to bring their own utensils. The Green Up store sells some great bamboo reusable utensils, and I bring mine everywhere with me. Food containers, so avoiding those hard to recycle plastics such as polystyrene or black plastic containers or styrofoam. Instead, you can opt for some of the options that Hilary has discussed earlier, or again, encourage bringing your own food containers. And straws, this is a big one. Don't need to talk much about this, but we all know the alternatives. We stainless steel, silicone, or paper straws for accessibility purposes. And there is more information on this ban in the federal government's discussion paper, which is also one of the links in the resources page at the end of this. All right. So that's that. And now we have the recycling regulation changes. So some of you may have heard that the Ontario government is making changes to the current blue box recycling program to make producers, so brand owners, fully responsible for the recycling program and its costs instead of municipalities and taxpayers, which have historically and still continue to hold that burden. So the rationale being that if producers have to carry the burden of their products, then maybe they'll be more enticed to create less plastic and hard to recycle products. Now, the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority, RIPRA, they're responsible for oversight, compliance, and enforcement of resource recovery or waste reduction in Ontario. And they just recently approved Stewardship Ontario's wind-up plan of the Blue Box program. So Stewardship Ontario's plan to phase out the Blue Box program in the next 4 or 5 years. So eventually Stewardship Ontario will be sort of out of the game. In short, the regulation explains who is eligible. So residential units, including multi-residential, schools, long-term care homes, and some public spaces will have services for recycling collection, as well as what materials will be collected from these areas and spaces. The list is going to be expanded and standardized across the province, as well as how the program will function. So data collection and reporting of producers. How producers are held accountable for this is that they all get sort of registered into a database and have to report yearly on what products they're creating and how they're actually dealing with those products. But again, this is something else. This is not final yet. We do still have a few years. You can go to the next slide, Hilary. Thanks. So Peterborough and County is set to transition in 2024. Over time, municipalities have adapted their system to assist local businesses with separating and processing recyclables, as you know, with your curbside collection. In the draft plan for this transition, commercial establishments are not yet included in the eligible sources. They weren't included earlier, but as I just said, municipalities have worked around that to offer some services. So it is unclear if or how producers will incorporate commercial businesses in the system. But again, this will be determined over the course of the next few years with consultation with service providers, businesses, and municipalities. And you can expect to see to have communications leading up to this by your local collection service. You can go to the next slide. So just quickly, some why this is relevant to small to medium enterprises. Don't worry, changes don't happen overnight. Again, there will be communication from your current blue box recycling providers. But some ways that you can prepare, in short, supporting the circular economy, reducing your reliance on plastic, focusing on the 4 R's, refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. Researching independent recycling services, container deposits, and other diversion programs. So a lot of the things that Hilary has already addressed. Waste equals cost. So the less waste you have to deal with, the more money you're going to save. And I just want to thank Heather from Cambium who helps put together this information on the blue box recycling transition and its relevance to small to medium enterprises. Okay, so next slide. Just quickly, I know we're a little bit behind right now, so I'll zip through this. Thanks so much for your patience. Right now, you're all too familiar with some COVID challenges, but there are some opportunities. This is a time when things are a bit slower to evaluate your practices and to establish a new norm. We recently did waste audits of certain municipal facilities while operations are slower and the public isn't going around too much. So we're using that as an opportunity to implement some new measures, create a new normal, get staff on board so that when the public do come back in, it's seamless. So with COVID, try to promote reusable and washable masks and gloves. We understand that for sanitation health purposes, that isn't always possible, that you do need to use medical grade, but you can do fundraisers where everyone sews a reusable mask. Refillable sanitizer stations, opt not for buying sanitizer in the small plastic, but instead in bulk, and refillable dispensers. And make sure that you're disposing of PPE into the garbage and not the recycling. So for masks, try cut the straps, just like those 6-pack rings that can get caught on certain wildlife. Same with the disposable masks. Next slide. But yeah, again, this is an opportunity. If a lot is on, if you're doing telecommuting, employees aren't using gas to get to work, and if you're offering online shopping, you have lower operating costs because you don't have as many people inside your establishment. And again, it is an opportunity to review your practices. As well, there is business funding support through the Ontario government. I'm sure some of you are aware, but just to let you know that is available. Okay, great. I'll put it over to Tracy Logan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anna. So on to our second presenter. This is Beatrice Chan, and she's the owner of Summer Roads Flower Company. So nestled in the agricultural landscape of Peterborough County, Summer Roads Flower Company specializes in seasonal, locally grown cut flowers inspired by the beautiful landscapes in the Kawarthas. You can find Summer Roads Flowers Company's products at their farm stand, through their bouquet subscription program, and online. So we're going to also play a video here as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Beatrice Chan, and I've been asked to tell you a little bit about the sustainability practices on my farm, Summer Roads Flower Company. So, we have a mixed farm. We raise animals. We have sheep, horse, and mixed poultry, and then we grow cut flowers, and that's the business portion of the farm mostly. We're located on the Mississauga territory, just outside of Lakefield, and I would like to express my respect and gratitude for all the living and non-living relationships that support me in my life, and I hope that the work that I'm showcasing here is a testament to me trying to support them in return. We all know that climate change is a real thing, and climate change is impacting agriculture in our area, the Kawarthas, through things like droughts, extreme heat, and other extreme weather events. And so if I want to keep farming into the future, I need to build some climate change resilience into my farm so that I'm not just wiped out by these events. And then I also need to recognize that agriculture is can be part of the problem towards climate change and the climate crisis. But if I change my practices in a certain way, then it can be part of the solution instead. So I can build climate change mitigation into my farm as well. And I do this through regenerative agricultural practices. On my farm, we focus a lot on soil health because it's the basis of all my farming systems, whether that's feeding the pastures, which feed the livestock, or feeding the crops themselves and supporting those crops. So we do this by supporting all the living soil organisms in our soil, which makes up the soil food web. So we want to keep a healthy, active soil food web in our soils, which drive the function of healthy soils and allow them to be the best they can be. So our practices include things like keyline design, which is a landscape level layout to capture water in the soil, aerobic composting, and I do this not as a form of nutrient addition or organic matter addition, but as a way of growing or farming microorganisms in my compost heaps, which I then can put on my soils through compost, like the addition of solid compost, or through liquid amendments like compost teas and compost extracts, which I can apply to my pastures and things like that. I also am working on cover cropping, so my goal is to have living roots from plants in the soil 24/7, 365, which feed all those microorganisms and keep that soil food web going throughout the winter and all the seasons. I do mixed rotational grazing, so I rotate different animals through the pastures and give the pastures time to rest before animals come back on them and overgraze them. I also use no-till, so I don't use rototillers or anything like that in my flower production. So a healthy soil is obviously very important, and then if I use practices that help maintain a healthy soil, then my soils can do things like sequester carbon, prevent nutrient runoff, increase nutrient cycling, which feeds my plants and reduces my need for things like fertilizers, increase water infiltration and water storage and retention, so when we have drought periods, my plants won't just die. And then all of these things support healthy plants and animals, both the ones that I grow and raise on my farm, but also the wild animals and plants that live on my farm as well. And then that is how we build in the climate change, we build in climate change mitigation on our farm and resilience, and hope that we can continue farming sustainably into the future. If you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You can also email me or check out my website. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Thanks.
Okay, great.
Hello.
All right, that's great. Thanks, Bea. That's that looks like a beautiful job to have. I really enjoy that. I may be putting in my resume perhaps to work there. So we are running a little bit behind. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go straight into closing remarks, and then we will answer questions that you have after the session. So we'll do some follow-up after that. So once again, I'd just like to thank you all for being here. Thank you to Selwyn Township. Thanks to Krista and Bea for helping us with their presentations today and sharing their information and experience with us. Again, thanks for you for attending. We hope you can join us for the next session, which I mentioned is on the 19th. And I'm sure you can find that information on the chamber, if you get the chamber newsletter, or on the Kawartha Chamber website, as well as through the township as well. There will be a draw done for a $50 gift certificate, and that's going to be drawn after the webinar from the list of participants. So good luck on that. You'll be notified if you are the successful winner. If you have any questions, though, please feel free to contact Tracy Beverly, the Membership Relations Coordinator, and her email is there at the bottom of the screen, membership@kawarthachamber.ca. And I also just wanted to just make you aware of a couple of things. You know, as a representative from the Kawartha Chamber, we're always encouraging new members to join us. I know it's a difficult time right now, and you know, we don't have the networking opportunities that we would typically have, but through events like this, we're able to reconnect. It's also nice just to know there's other people out there struggling along like you. So it's a nice community to be part of. For more information on becoming a Kawartha Chamber member, you can reach out to Tracy Beverly again there at the member relations email. Please make sure you sign up for the next session. And I'm just going to turn it over to Anna quickly, but thanks again.
Hi, yeah, I also just wanted to use this as an opportunity to promote that there is a Sustainable Development Goals Forum happening online February 24th and 25th. Green Up and the Kawartha World Issue Center had some federal funding to do a project in which they were localizing the Sustainable Development Goals, and hope that people would consider attending. You don't have to have any background in the Sustainable Development Goals, just a passion for your community. It is based on a few different priority areas, so poverty, quality education, clean water and sanitation, and climate action, all the while prioritizing and centering Indigenous leadership and knowledge. So if you have an interest in any of those action areas and want to talk about them in relation to your community, I encourage you to sign up. I'll send information when following up about that forum. And thanks everyone so much for coming. Sorry we went over time, but we will answer all your questions when following up. And including, yeah, a recording of the webinar and a whole bunch of resources. Okay, great.
So I can keep this up, but we're just now gonna do some questions. I know it's 7 minutes after 5, so if anyone needs to go, go ahead. We'll just try to do a few of those questions. And then anything that we don't have time for, we'll try to make about go to maybe 5:15 if that's okay with everybody.
Sure.
And then any questions that we don't get to tonight, we'll address them to the email when we send out this recording and the presentation as well. Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to go through the chat here. I see that we had one about recycling textiles. I did try to answer that. Sherry had offered Vinnie's, which is a great suggestion as well. The New to You stores take a lot of recyclable textiles. There are diabetes Dropbox bins all around. There's actually a map you can find online for where to find the diabetes Dropbox bins. And there's also the community bike shop in Peterborough also accepts rags for their bike workshop, which is great. And so I've covered the definition of single-use plastics, but someone had also asked about the plastic containers that they use for their customers to put peanut butter in the Lakefield pantry. It's just like, you know, I guess technically, and so those are like the clear plastic sort of flexible ones, like I'm assuming. I guess technically that is a single use, but just like most of us use our sour cream and yogurt containers over again, you can use technically single use plastics more than once. It's sort of up to you, but they do kind of degrade. I don't know if you've considered for the Lakefield pantry allowing people to come in with other containers like glass. Or silicone. I'm not sure if you've considered that, but that is an option. And concerned about plastic bags that we put dry product. I'm not so sure what the material is you're referring to. So maybe you can clarify. This came from, I'm not sure who this came from, but if you don't want to clarify now, maybe through email. Hillary, did you want to answer one? I'm just kind of going through here.
Go for it. Where are you on that list?
Okay, I see another one. How does the cost of operating the Blue Box compare with the new program who is ultimately responsible for the operation and the revenue and expenses of the program? So I just want to preface this by saying we are by no means experts on this. I don't know if anyone has actually read the wind up plan, but it's quite a technical document. And I've submit inquiries to the RIPRA and Stewardship Ontario about further information specifically relevant to the small business community. And I haven't heard back yet, so I'm hoping to get some information. But my understanding is the whole point is that the cost will be on producers and manufacturers as opposed to municipalities and taxpayers. So that's kind of the idea, is that producers will be ultimately responsible for the products that they produce and what happens cost-wise and how they're recycled. Whereas RIPRA will be the sort of governing authority, as well as some government ministries, to make sure that producers are properly reporting on how they deal with their materials. Hillary, if you have anything to add to that, please do.
Biggest thing is, if you have the time, look into those documents and kind of get familiar with it. If you have any questions, they do, the Ontario government does have inquiries. I think they've closed some of them already at the end of 2020. So just being familiar with kind of what is going on. And if you have questions, I mean, they should be there to answer those kind of questions. A lot of anything, everything takes time. So it's not going to happen overnight. And so you might not see some of those clarifications for years until they really pound out those details, especially like our commercial enterprises, whether or not what's going to go on with them.
And then we had Jenny clarify that the plastic bags for dry product at the pantry are poly bags similar to a light Ziploc, but without the zip. Yeah, again, that's something that, you know, with Ziploc bags, I'll like wash them out and dry them and use them, but you only really get two or three uses after that. So there are the kind of plasticky silicone reusable bags that are an option as well if you allow customers to bring in their own. I know it does depend on weight and volume, but that's always an option to consider, either paper bags, so more recyclable materials, or reusable bags and containers for customers.
Yeah, I think there's some local businesses that do allow refill stations. And so oftentimes whatever they're bringing for their container is different. And so they usually just have a weigh scale and they go back off of weight when you refill. So if you don't have their proper containers to go and refill them, just bring whatever you've got, mason jars, as Anna said, you know, your extra yogurt containers, things like that. So, and then do they often just have a little Sharpie, or you can bring your little dry erase marker that washes away really quickly.
Hillary, do you want to answer this question? Is thermal paper, such as from debit machine receipts, recyclable?
So, in theory, yes. Anything that is like waxy though is not recyclable. So if it's full paper and it's not that filmy feel, it can be recycled. If it does have that film, you can still put it in the recycle. I don't think they're quite recyclable as they're meant to be. So I know that the recycling in our area does accept it, but I just, as a plastic researcher, I don't think they're just such a small piece of product that it doesn't, it's not cost efficient for recyclers to deal with. So check if it's waxy. If it's full paper, better. And yeah, so you can put in your recyclable container in your fibers bin, but just kind of keep an eye out for any changes to that that regulation, because as we all know, recycling does change. What used to be recyclable is not recyclable anymore, and that's all dependent on exactly where we get to send our recycling to be sorted and reconstructed. So yeah. All right. looking at.
And then Natalie has just mentioned that thermal paper also contains BPA. I forget what that stands for, but I know it's like a chemical compound. Natalie, do you want to?
Sure. It's bisphenol A, and it's a hormone disrupting chemical that has been taken out of a lot of other products. Just as an example, if you do have a business that uses thermal paper, the Green Up store where I work for Green Up, I'm working on the Green Economy Peterborough business hub that's emerging. But anyway, in our store, they have actually just gone to a conventional printer to print on regular paper, and it's connected to the POS system. And it works just as well. It's a different setup, and obviously like credit and debit machines aren't set up for that, but it does reduce the amount of chemicals that are going into the environment.
Also, Kevin, you're asking some excellent questions that I honestly do not know the answer to. Again, it's a very technical plan, and I have submitted some inquiries, but I suggest, I think the more people that ask these questions, the better. Yeah, we just want to give a brief overview because we've had some questions. We know it's in the news, and just to sort of, give people a heads up, but these are really excellent questions. So we will certainly send you information about who to get in touch with. Stewardship Ontario and RIPRA would be the ones. Yeah. But I can say that municipalities are definitely advocating and sharing skepticism around the kinds of things you're mentioning. So yeah, it's on the radar for sure. Okay. Do we have anything else at the moment? I think people are trickling away, so we can kind of maybe reiterate this stuff in a follow-up.
Yeah, it's about just after 5:15. Anyone have any further questions? Don't hesitate to put them in here into the chat still, and then we'll address them when we do a mass email with the recording and the webinar presentation and that helpful resource page where some of those questions about all of that regulation you can read on and look at it for yourself.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, everyone. It was great to see your faces. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.